35 years ago, Donkey Kong appeared in arcades. The year was 1981. Mario didn't even have a name yet. His creator called him Mr. Video and then later Jumpman. Players maneuvered this character across platforms and up ladders, chasing down the titular Donkey Kong, who had kidnapped a woman named Pauline. This hero hunts villain story made the original Donkey Kong one of the first video games to have a complete narrative, simple as it was. It was also really hard. It took patience and extremely accurate timing to beat the game. In 1982, Donkey Kong Jr. came out for the NES and in arcades. It was a direct sequel to the original Donkey Kong, except this time, and for the only time in history, Mario was the villain. You played as Donkey Kong Jr., trying to rescue your dad from the cage he was locked in by Mario after the events of the original Donkey Kong. Gameplay was different. DK Jr. could climb vines as well as hop across platforms. He could also hold 2 vines at once, allowing him to climb faster. Meanwhile, Mario was up there tossing birds and alligators at him. Come on, man, get it together. Donkey Kong 3 came out in 1983 and changed up the DK formula again. It was a side-scrolling shooter that featured Donkey Kong as an enemy. It was also the first game to have the modern DK logo. The player is Stanley, an exterminator who sprays Donkey Kong with bug spray. His goals are to kill bugs and force DK to climb up those vines and go away. The game only had 3 levels and was criticized for being pretty repetitive. Fast forward to 1994. The Donkey Kong series returns to platforming with Donkey Kong Country for the Super NES. This time we're on Donkey Kong Island, and Donkey Kong is a hero. He and his nephew Diddy Kong are taking back a horde of stolen bananas from the villain King K. Rool. Cool. Yeah. This was the first DK game to be developed by Rare, and it was the second best-selling Super NES game of all time. It introduced popular DK mechanics like launching out of barrel cannons, swinging from vines, riding in minecarts, and swimming, as well as collecting bananas and Kong letters. Rare also introduced side characters, fleshing out the DK universe. Donkey Kong Country also set the standards for the character that we recognize as Donkey Kong today. Basically, it laid the groundwork for modern DK games as we know them. The second Rare-developed Donkey Kong game was Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy Kong's Quest, released in 1995. This time Diddy Kong was joined by his girlfriend Dixie Kong, and no, I don't know why they have the same last name. Dixie Kong can jump higher than Diddy Kong and uses her ponytail to float. The game maintained the same style as the first DK Country, but introduced new side characters, like Wrinkly Kong, Donkey Kong's grandmother, as well as gameplay elements like Honey, which made a sticky obstacle. 1996 saw Dixie Kong take over the title role in Donkey Kong Country 3: Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Another Rare game, this platformer had Dixie teaming up with her cousin Kitty to rescue DK and Diddy from King K. Rool. That is a mouthful! It was the last DK game that Rare released for the Super NES, and that might have contributed to its low sales. The Nintendo 64 was also released that same year. 1997's Diddy Kong Racing didn't even have Donkey Kong in it. Lots of other DK characters were playable though, as well as other Rare characters like Conker the Squirrel and Banjo-Kazooie. At the time, reviewers praised the game's audio and graphics. It was the 6th best-selling N64 game of all time and actually beat out Mario Kart 64 for the console racing game of the year. In 1999, the DK series returned to platforming with Donkey Kong 64. The format was similar to the Donkey Kong Country games, with water stages, minecarts, and of course, vine swinging. King K. Rool is back, yes, again! And this time he kidnaps Diddy, Tiny, Lanky, and Chunky Kong and steals a bunch of bananas. Some people never learn. Most importantly, Donkey Kong 64 introduced the world to the DK rap, which is something that we may never recover from. Donkey Kong 64 was the last Donkey Kong game developed by Rare. In 2002, Rare was bought by Microsoft. And then, Donkey Kong disappeared. The franchise didn't resurface until 2003 with the first Donkey Konga rhythm game from Namco. In 2004, Nintendo resurrected a rivalry with Mario vs. Donkey Kong for the Game Boy Advance. 2004 also saw the release of the second Donkey Konga game and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. The Donkey Konga games had introduced DK bongo drums, which totally makes sense for a rhythm game. These bongos were also used to control Donkey Kong in Jungle Beat, which was a platformer. People loved the game, they just hated beating those bongos for hours to move DK around. When the Wii re-release included more traditional controls, Jungle Beat was elevated to an all-time classic DK game. The Donkey Kong series wouldn't return to the classic 3D platformer style until 2010's Donkey Kong Country Returns. In the interim years, we saw 2 more handheld games, DK King of Swing for the Game Boy Advance, and DK Jungle Climber for the Nintendo DS. Both were platformers where DK and Diddy Kong swing on pegs to get through the levels. Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 March of the Minis came out for the Nintendo DS in 2006, and another racing game, Donkey Kong Barrel Blast, was released for the Wii in 2007. So, back to DK Country Returns in 2010. This was the first Donkey Kong Country game without Rare on board as a developer. Retro Studios took the helm instead. All of the classic elements are here. Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong collect golden Kong letters and swing on vines as they hunt down their stolen bananas. The game came out on the Wii and used motion controls for the ground pound move. Evidently, the people were thirsty for a good Donkey Kong Country game because the game raked in high scores on sites like Metacritic, as well as awards from press outlets like IGN and Game Informer. Craig Harris at IGN called it an incredibly challenging old-school throwback. Next, Donkey Kong moved to the Nintendo 3DS, with Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move, which built on the same gameplay as the previous Mario vs. Donkey Kong games. Like March of the Minis, it also had a level creation mode. The latest game in the Donkey Kong series is 2014's Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Tropical Freeze followed in the footsteps of the other Donkey Kong Country games and was the first DK Country title for the Wii U. This time, Donkey Kong and crew are up against the Snowmads, who are trying to bring eternal winter to Donkey Kong Island. Here at Polygon, we praise the game's incredible level design, breakneck pace, and heaps of Donkey Kong nostalgia. Tropical Freeze brought Donkey Kong to the latest generation of consoles, while building off what the earlier games did well. So now, after 35 years, we've seen Donkey Kong grow from a lady-stealing villain to a banana-chomping hero. He's been a leading ape, and of course a playable character in tons of other Nintendo games, including the Mario Kart series, Mario Tennis, and Super Smash Bros. To date, Donkey Kong has headlined 7 different series. There's the original, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, Donkey Konga, a handheld series called Donkey Kong Land, Donkey Kong Racing, the DK series, and of course Donkey Kong Country. That is a lot of history for one simple ape. Happy 35th birthday, Donkey Kong!